Guys, good Wednesday morning. I'm Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk here on the I Love CVille Network. Thank you kindly for joining us. Real Talk with Keith Smith, presented by Yes Realty Partners, Keller Williams Alliance. And today's program on a Wednesday is very much presented by Ross Mortgage and our very good friend, Scott Mortgage Morris. If you need someone you can count on, Scott Morris of Ross Mortgage is someone you can undoubtedly contact. I'd say 24/7, 365.
Yeah, typically we're here, man.
I think he would go with that.
Yeah, we're gonna get in touch. We're gonna make it happen.
He's looking sharp. 4-shot if we could. I believe. I like to notice these things. Is that a new shirt? I don't think I've seen you wear this on the show before.
I don't know that I've worn it on the show. But
it's
it was
good shirt.
I was gonna go golf polo, and I was like, still a little too cold.
Still a little cold.
Yeah.
I like it. He's looking sharp. Keith Smith is looking distinguished. Christy Beck is looking gorgeous. And today is going to be fun talking real estate on Real Talk with Keith Smith. Good morning, my friend.
And you are looking handsome.
Yeah.
Can't leave you out of that.
I was not fishing for that, but thank you. Why don't we start with our featured guest here. And Christy, introduce yourself to everybody that's watching.
Yeah, hello, good morning. I'm Christy Lynn with Long & Foster in the Gunnels Group. Feeling a little bare. I usually have my partner in crime, Maggie Gunnels-Warnaker, here with me, but really excited to be here and just talk some more real estate in the lake and Charlottesville and real estate as a whole.
Fantastic. She grinds. She gets after it. I was going to ask her, and in fact I did ask her how many transactions this year, and she goes, oh my gosh, so many, I'm not sure. That's what the response was. Literally, there was a response. I was like, that's a good problem to have, Christy.
It's been a good year. Very blessed.
It's been a good year.
There you go. Scott, jump in, brother.
Yeah, hey, just glad to be here. Kind of just keeping an eye on what the market's been doing and looking at what you brought in as far as days on market and seeing things, some price changes tick down a little bit and some things are getting on market for a little longer than they have been and just watching the thing churn.
So we usually try to chat on Wednesdays about, your mortgage applications week over week. How's that looking?
So on the month, we are still, I said last month we were tracking above March. We still are. And applications are up. That is active, but then price points below 400,000, I'm seeing more people have a difficulty still getting under contract. 400 and up are being, those offers are more easily accepted.
So when you're talking about under 400 multiple offers,
yeah,
that kind of
those
thing.
clients are clients that are still out that I've got in the pipeline continuing to shop for whatever reason. It's a more competitive market on a nice property less than $400,000.
Are you seeing the same thing, Christy?
Oh, most definitely. 200s, 300s flying off the shelf. I mean, multiple offers still. Again, same thing. We were just having this conversation with a client the other day. Anything over 4, you're having less competitive, been able to maybe even get it at asking, home sale contingencies, so forth. Was able to do that over the weekend.
What about the upper end guys? Are we seeing that slowing down a little bit?
Well, it depends. When we talk, if we're 700 to $1 million, I think that is still pretty competitive. But that pocket between 400 and 750, it's a little softer from what I'm seeing.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. So let's define soft, meaning from a
less competitive.
Less competitive, got it. So if you're in that price range, right, that you have a better chance of winning an offer.
Absolutely.
Or winning a contract or bid for lack of a better term than under 400. That's interesting. So one of the things we were looking at earlier before our pre-production show was, Christy, are you starting to see some price changes pop up on homes that are I can't believe I'm even going to say this, long in the tooth, like over 10 or 12 or 15 days on the market?
I'm starting to see some price changes in that area for sure, but I'm still seeing agents come in pretty aggressive with their pricing right off the bat and then making a change about a week, 10 plus days in. But some of them are still standing steady on their price. Even after that. But I've been able to go in after they've sat, my golden rule is like, let's give it a week and see what happens. If it's still sitting there, then maybe that's something we can negotiate for you guys.
So you're putting a buyer's hat on in that conversation?
Oh, definitely.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, definitely having that conversation. I have a couple clients right now that interest rate changes kind of took them
We've
out
had a
of...
little bit of that in the last 90 days.
Yeah, it kind of took them out of the buying power they had the first quarter of the year. And so the conversation I'm having with them, they're like, this is the house we've been waiting for, but it's listed at $240 or $250. And I'm like, well, yeah, but let's give it 3 or 4 days and, see after the weekend if it's still there. Let's give it 7 days and see if it's still there. And then maybe we can go in and try to get it at the price point that you can now buy at. But those are still flying off the market.
Yeah, so your buyer doesn't get a chance at a second
Yeah.
bite of the apple.
And I think a lot of that
No.
is on the lower end. There's still more investors going after the property that has a little bit of work that's needed and or to pick up for a rental part of their fleet more so than there's more of that at that price point. There's more investor opportunity with higher rates at lower price points than when you get into the bigger numbers.
Are you seeing it at the lake, Christy?
So, for example, there was a house in Scottsville. It was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath with a detached garage, and it was listed below 2, and there was I think there ended up being 7 offers on it. Yeah.
In
and even
Scottsville.
in Scottsville.
Yeah.
And far out in Scottsville. It wasn't even like it was close to Albemarle. We're still seeing that. There's so many people that are just so desperate to find housing. I have 3 clients right now that May 31st, they are homeless. Their landlord's putting a house on market after May 31st. They've got to find something. And with interest rate changes, we have to stay at that 200 price point where before it was maybe like 240, 250. Now we're having to stay closer to 2 with the interest rate change. And so, yeah, they're going out there and they're fighting for these houses. And I think that we're seeing that too on top of these investors. I've been in situations that I've been able to outbeat the investors in the cash just with good terms and really making it a sweet deal
But
for
are
them.
you seeing, and particularly Lake Monticello, are you seeing a lot of investor buyers coming in here to buy homes? I'm looking on the back end, and I don't see a lot of that.
No, I've been following up too because, there's been a few that I'm like, oh, I want to see what happened there. Was that a cash deal? Was that a quick close? And it's like, nope, 30 days, it's still there. I think that we're still just seeing that price point that's literally like my clients just looking for a place to live. I'm not seeing, I think at Lake Monticello, the prices we're seeing almost doesn't make sense for a lot of these investors still, buying these 3 2s that need quite a bit of work and they're selling for $250, $260, and I know that, rent has gone up.
Oh, substantially.
Substantially, so it could potentially be worth it to them, but some of them are still holding out. And we're starting to see more auctions coming too. In the last month, we've seen quite a few auctions coming up. So I think we'll see some investors really take the wheel there, but I also think that we'll see these first-time home buyers or these people that need houses raise the price higher than investors are probably even willing to pay.
That's been going on for the last 2 years. Depending on the auction house, I know there's a company in Orange, and then there's 1 or 2 others locally to the area that do a decent amount, and it doesn't create a deal. I think that's
No, it's not.
Yeah,
That's why it's pushing the investors out, and these people are just
100%.
Yeah.
Explain that. It doesn't create a deal.
It's the same concept as, one of the things Christy was talking about just a few minutes ago was agents that are pricing at the top of what they're going to get for the property anyways versus some agents who will price 20% below that number and drive activity to the property. That's the exact same concept or model that the auction house is based on. The listing agent is gonna use the offers to actually drive the market price as opposed to listing and hoping that it sticks with interest.
Yeah.
Good take right there. Keith, how many agents are you seeing under a list to drive activity? We talked about that on this show.
So we're
underpriced.
Underprice is one path, and we can talk about that a little bit. But
underprice, I think, is still a gray term because
Is it really underpriced?
because the offers will dictate the price.
Right.
That's the whole purpose.
Yeah.
Under average. How about under average?
Yeah.
This guy's not a huge fan of that strategy over here.
Well,
it's a good talking point for a talk show, though.
Yeah, it's not that I'm not a fan of that. It just sets some different expectations out there, right? So as professionals, in my opinion, we should price it right.
It's really discouraging for clients too.
Got it.
For buyers.
Yeah.
For buyers, right? Because they kind of know this, and they look at this, and literally I'm having conversations. By the way, at the $800, $900 million range, well, look, what is it really going to go to? So if it's going to go to 1.2, or if it's going to go from 800 to 900, well, I don't want to play at 900. I'll play it if it's really an $800,000 house. Then I can maybe go a little bit on it. But if it's going to go from 800 to 900, I'm out of my ballpark.
Just because you don't like it doesn't mean it doesn't work.
No, I get it. No,
Fair point.
I get it. It's a tool.
Yeah.
It's much like our coming soon topic that we tend to talk about from time to time. It's a tool. It's an available tool. But we were talking about overpricing, right?
Yeah.
And I think as a listing agent, and let's talk a little bit about that for a second. So what's that conversation look like here, Christy? I'm your seller, and I go, Scott just sold his house next to 2 months ago for $50,000 more than what you think it's worth.
Right.
What does that conversation look like with me?
Yeah, so I actually just had this conversation with a client the other day, going into their listing, and I just really encouraged them that I ran comps for them. Obviously, it's their decision at the end of the day, and I told them that, but I said, if you want to drive activity to your property, I recommend that we stay at this price point, because when we go over this, it changes who's going to come in there. And bringing more activity into the property does help. I'm not saying go to the lower end, and I always give them a range. This is where I think the average is, but we could go on the higher end here, but you're going to have less traffic through it. And really, my sellers kind of get weird when they're like, we only had 20 people here this weekend. And I'm like, only 20? Okay. They want to see 50, 60 people coming through their house. So I'm going to recommend, and you never know, and another conversation I had with them, you never know if it may be the right house for that person, that they may pull out, call their lender, right? How many times, how much higher can I go? Because you probably get this conversation all the time, because it's that perfect home for them, and it does help drive the price up for your clients and help with other terms. When you have multiple offers on the table, you're able to, waive home inspections and waive appraisal contingencies and the things that really help push the needle forward for your seller.
So at some point in time,
Yeah.
this pendulum is going to swing.
For sure.
It's swinging.
It's swinging.
It is. It's swinging.
Certain places, it's definitely swinging.
And it's an interesting
Yeah.
conversation, particularly on the seller, because the psychology of buyers and sellers starts changing,
Yeah.
right? So, and generally the buyer and the seller lags what we know as professionals on that end of it. But I was on the phone with Greg Slater on the way in, talking about a couple of things in market, and we were having this conversation around 10 days on market. And I was like, I've been doing this for 3.5 decades. I can't believe those words, 10 days, even came out of my mouth. But at Lake Monticello, year to date, right now, the average days on market is 5.
Right.
So
And that's letting agents in, like we've talked about in the past.
This is coming in for Scott specifically, and we can cut this into a real J-Dubs. You mentioned it's swinging. Specifically, what are you seeing? Indicating the market is rebalancing.
So in some areas, I'm seeing appraisals not come in to where everyone was hoping they would quite come in at. And I'm starting to see, instead of, we're not going to do that, we're just going to go out and get another contract, the agent actually advising to say, hey, maybe we're here. Because instead of going back on, if this appraises at the same number, you're going to be in the same boat. They're seeing properties at some of these price points go more days on market, and it's telling people in the market, look, if this is the deal, this is the deal. Versus, well, that's fine, we'll just cancel and we'll go find another buyer. There's less of that out there, or at least there's more trusted advisors saying, look, we went over contract to get to this number. If this is where it's coming in at, I think that this is where you need to sell.
So current interest rates are impacting that, right? So when it was at 3%, right, I had a little extra cash. If I'm over $10,000, I'll throw some cash at it. Now I don't have that cash because I'm putting it towards the purchase price, right, to drive my monthly payment down, right, because I'm borrowing less money. So as interest rates go up, you'll see a lot less of what you're talking
Yeah,
about,
absolutely.
or more of what you're talking about.
What do you think, Christy?
Yeah, no, I agree. I saw, in the last 3 weeks, I've seen a huge shift. And just even traction in our properties, our waterfronts that we've put on and everything. We've seen, even those 200,000 and 300,000 that are still getting 5 and 6 offers on them, I'm seeing a huge decrease in traction inside the homes that we were, some agents are saying we weren't expecting. I'm like, but if you're watching all the trends, people are being really taken out of the market in those places. We're seeing that difference, but it's just I do say this, so it's interesting because we still have sellers almost not satisfied.
That's the point.
In the market, and it blows my mind because, for instance, I just had this conversation. We just had one seller who we listed at the top of the market 2 years ago. They probably would have got $70,000 less for their property, and they bought it $200,000 less than we were putting it on market for, and we listed it at the top of where the comps came and where we advised them. They followed our lead, and we got $30,000 over asking, and the response was, I wish we would have got $20,000 more.
Wow.
It's just this non-satisfied feeling in all sides of things, and it's interesting because we're going to see a lot more of that non-satisfied feeling as things continue to
So
change.
our skill sets will have to
Yeah.
jump up, and it's probably the next 3 to 6 months.
Right.
So there will not be in my opinion, and everybody I read, there's not going to be a pop or anything like that. What there's going to be is this slow swing
Right.
back to a different market.
It's stabilization.
And then what's going to happen in that is the mentality of the sellers are going to have to change a little bit because you're going to hear that for a while.
Definitely.
And you have to have the skill sets to navigate that conversation.
Well, yeah, that goes back to what are we in the business of? We're in the business of managing expectations.
That's exactly right.
Like
I prefer to use the word education, but that's the same thing. The same thing on the buyers, right? So the buyers are kind of now feeling maybe we're starting to get into
Right.
more control. But the question I was asking you, if a month ago or 2 months ago on that same house, it would have been double the offers on it than 5,
Oh,
right?
definitely. Most
So-
definitely.
so there's
We're
a-
definitely seeing a slower trend. One of our other partners was selling an investment home that she was flipping, and she just kept on saying, I can't believe that I didn't have multiple offers on this actually incredible property that she was selling. And we're just seeing, she put it on market the week after we had that Tuesday that was like the interest rates jumped like 3 or 4 times in one day. And
Yeah, we've
it's
seen a lot
definitely
of
changing
reprices.
things. Yeah, but and I'm going in with expectations with my buyers and sellers too. And I think that you guys are right. Educating, putting your expectations out there. And, my buyers are starting to feel a little bit more victories in this market, which feels good even though the market's still high. But I also think there was some warrant for this increase in price, especially if you look at Lake Monticello, right? Maggie and I haven't been in the industry for 15 years like Maggie has and you guys have, but I've taken the time to educate myself of what the market has always done, and it's really stayed steady for about 15 years. And a healthy market, what do you say, increases 2 to 3% a year, right?
Of 3 to 5%.
Okay, so
3 to 6%.
So let's say safe, just 3, middle of the road.
Sure.
And so if you look at the history of the lake, right, we didn't have a huge increase, even 3% through history of, you could still buy a house for $150,000, $175,000 at the lake, and now you're seeing those houses sell for the $220,000, $230,000, $240,000 range.
So 5 years ago, the same time period,
Yeah.
the average sales price was $188,
Yeah,
right? And so that's $149,000 difference than this year to date, which
Right.
is 337. But interesting, in 2017, there were 66 units sold in the first, this is year to date.
Yeah.
Versus 73. So the volume is not that far off.
Right.
On that. It's big time off compared to last year.
Yeah.
We're like about 27% off.
and
in
it's
volume of sales.
supply still, right? We still
Yeah.
have the supply issue because it's not because things aren't selling at the lake, it's because we don't have the inventory. And the things that are sitting on inventory, you sent me a list yesterday, are things that need substantial work and are definitely on the higher end of those comps.
So Scott, what tools do you have in your toolbox, right? We're at 5%, plus 5% right now on a 30 mortgage. What tools do you have in your toolbox? How can we help? Christy, how can you help Keith with our buyers?
CNBC showing 5.35 for your 30-year fixed right now. And that's probably a little below average, to be honest.
Yeah, I was going to say that feels a little bit lower than yesterday.
Yeah, we're probably quoting like 700 credit, 5% down, $400,000 purchase, right around 5.5. That's where we are. So less to do with rate and more to do with when we first, in January, what I said, the properties that you'll see coming on and sitting on the market are going to be these deferred maintenance properties that are going to need a little more love. And as far as product goes, I've got, we do some 203K, I've got a conventional home ready rehab, and I've actually got contractors who are already set up and HUD representatives to come in, create a bid. They're going to go in and whatever the purchase price is going to be, and then the subject to value, meaning they're going to walk through with the contractor on their initial walkthrough, and they're going to say, all right, we're going to put $80,000 into this $220,000 property, so they're going to buy it $220,000, assuming that offer gets accepted, let's say $220,000, $230,000, and then they're going to be borrowing off the $300,000 to $310,000 value of the $80,000 worth of work that'll be put into the property for your all said and done amount.
So looking at what's available at the lake, just to focus on Lake Monticello, there's 15 homes on the market as it stands this morning. 15 of them are over 15 days. I mean, substantially. The minimum, I got 20, 54, 67, 81, 28, and 60. Everything else is either 0, 4, 6, and there's 2 over 10.
Yeah.
And so my suspicion is these ones that are over, and we won't call out a specific property, but I know some of them need this.
They need a little hug, man. That's all. They need a little hug.
Some of them
more.
Some of them need a lot more than a hug.
Chiropractor.
Carrie Rock for Scott. Do those rates reflect VA loans as well?
Roughly.
Carrie's a vet.
VA, you're going to come in, you're going to probably be a little bit better. And same thing for FHA. So anything that's government backed is going to price a little bit better than conventional at the moment. And that's because investors on the other side have the benefit of knowing that for VA, there's a guarantee, and FHA, there's insurance that if the borrower were to default, that they're going to be repaid for through those institutions.
He also gives you props, Keith, on the new hearing aids. He says their new audiology department in CVille is on point.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Thank you.
And I believe he's a client as well.
Yeah.
Carrie.
Yeah. It was a fellow vet.
Yeah.
Fellow disabled vet.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So he highlights the audiology department. The question that comes in every single show when Scott's on there: where are rates going to go for the rest of the year, Scott?
So I think we're at a plateau. I said that a couple weeks ago, and we haven't moved much since then. And I kind of stick by that. For how long? So the real question gets, so this May, where we're 2 weeks away from the next Fed meet, if they move 75 bips, I think you'll see a little pullback in the 30-year. We'll dip down closer to 5 than 5.5, and that's just because that's a natural. The world's going to freak out and it's coming to an end and everything's terrible. So you'll see people pile back into bonds and you'll see just a little reprieve on the 30-year fixed. But then it's going to start creeping back up, assuming that nothing really changes after they make the move. So then we'll get back to 5.5. I think we stick right around where we are for the significant short-term future. So I don't even know what to define that as. September, maybe. I don't see a lot changing between now and the midterm elections.
Yeah.
So
Will we see 3s or 4s again?
Yeah, but not this year.
So you're saying?
I mean 4s. I think we'll be back, but it's going to take some time to get there.
Don't you feel, and not getting to politics, but don't you feel this is kind of, besides COVID, don't you feel this is trending in the political year of how the rates?
This doesn't have anything to do with politics.
No.
It doesn't matter who is in the White House.
No, I wasn't saying it like that. I'm saying trending as far as where I was talking to my advisor the other day, and he said this is normal to see these differences during this part before you get to the midterm elections, and then you'll see a more stabilization of the markets and stuff. Do you not think that's
I don't think
true?
those two things correlate at all.
Okay.
Danny Tuggle and Keith, jumping after this. I saw a huge rush around March 20th. Here goes the spring market, but after about 2 weeks, I saw it burn out. I'm seeing inventory rise as we speak. Is it buyer pullback due to rates? And I think that's what we've been
I think
highlighting.
some. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, not to contradict, but the last 2 days in our car footprint since Monday, we've
Right.
got 50 units came on the market, 40 went off. So that's in
Yeah.
a positive trend. So I think you're just going to see this balancing.
Right.
back-
Yeah, the ebbs and
back
flows.
This back
And Easter,
and forth.
I think, played a huge role in too. Like on Monday, you made a post that we didn't see as many go pending, and I'm like, yeah, but I think people were gone and waiting till after Easter just to
Spring break.
Yeah,
I got to remember that posting stuff lasts forever. I got to keep on remembering.
I know.
It was
yeah.
a great post.
Yeah,
was.
Great post.
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
look, I want to get into something that I read an article, Scott, on CNBC. You brought it up earlier. Are you starting to see aggressive arms, the potential of aggressive arm coming back? Is
So the potential is there, but right now there's nobody who wants to be holding short-term paper, so investors just don't want it.
yeah? So they were predicting 5 and 1s and 10 and 2s or whatever it is coming back. I mean, your crystal ball's not seeing that.
I think we need to get into.
That scared me, by the way.
Yeah.
We need to get in next. We need to get in next year. I think before you see that really like being an attractive product for most.
So one of the reasons why we'll just have this balloon air being let out slightly is because of the credit requirements these days, right? And if we go, I've got a chill up my back when I read the article. If we go back to, pre-time of great unpleasantness, that's if that should go that way,
That drove the time of unpleasantness.
it created it.
Yeah, that's kind of like the DSCR, like the investor debt service recovery. It's basically a stated income product for this non-QM. It basically says, yeah, I'm going to make this much in the rental. Now they're like 20 to 30% down, but they don't really have to prove repayment. They just show that Florida's big on it. You see a little bit of it here in the broker channel, but it's definitely it makes you go, that seems like that could fall apart. Like especially in a market where if the government runs us into a recession with they've come out and said they like to see neutral, and neutral could essentially mean by the end of the year prime rate at 3.5%, 3.25%, 3.5%. That means we're going to have enough interest rate increase that they really want to almost slow the economy, which means who's going to be people are going to be making choices about whether they go out and do an Airbnb and do all of these things. So if we've got a product where people aren't being qualified on whether they can cover both of these mortgages, one of them is literally being it's a stated income. Yeah, I'm going to get this much in rental on an unproven property. Those are the ones that are going to fall off.
So, Christy, how's inflation affecting your business?
Well, my business is doing really well. But you think about
is it
different
cutting
things.
into your bottom line? Fuel is double.
You drive a lot.
Right.
Right.
Cover a lot of territory.
I do, but we were just sitting down and looking at everything recently, and my price per average of house sold went up, and since inflation's kind of went up, so it's kind of evening out in that sense.
But that's going to balance, right?
Yep, eventually will. But for me personally, I'm not seeing a huge difference in our income and where we are and where we thought we would be this year. And I've already done almost as much as I did last year in this first quarter. So I'm not saying that it's not affecting people. It has affected how my clients have went in and putting in offers and things like that. But we're still winning with home sale contingencies and so forth. So
I probably didn't ask the question correctly.
Sure.
So what I meant by that is, are you starting to see buyers not look at Buckingham or some of the outer edges because of fuel or not. It's just, I need a home.
Yeah.
Scott's offering perspective. Is that your guy? Is that your
It
man?
is.
He
Yeah.
says flex fuel helps with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
So you're not seeing the footprint shrink because of transportation
No,
overhead?
definitely not. No, I mean, not where we are. I think that I just have such a pool of people that need housing. I had some people that were willing to maybe change counties for a while, but really want to stay in their school district and things like that after giving it more thought. But I just sold a couple houses in Kent's Store, right?
Yeah.
And you've got to drive 20 minutes to get to the grocery store out there. So I'm really not seeing that. I think they're feeling more.
I need a place.
Yeah.
So it's.
I do have a few people that have changed their mentality from, oh, yeah, I want to live at the lake because it's convenient, to actually, I want to try to find some land because we want to grow our own crop. But I think that comes with a whole different trend of sustainable living.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of started since COVID in a sense too, and it's just becoming more predominant as we're seeing trends change. But I do have, and maybe it's just the people that I hang around, but that's really important to them.
So the overall market is kind of, like I said, in this swing.
Yeah,
And-
definitely.
And what's happening here is the buyers and sellers, the ones that are motivated, meaning I have to do something,
Right.
they're the ones in the market. They're the ones that are going to play.
Definitely.
They're the ones that are going to do what they need to do to get it, to
Yeah.
get something done because they have to.
Right.
The ones that don't have to,
Some of them have backed off a little bit. Let's see what happens.
and they will see what happens. And then, so if I'm that client, what does that conversation look like from the two of you? From Scott, if I not really have to move, but I.
So it depends on their situation. Are they already in a home that they own? Then it might be, you do what's best for you. If it's somebody who's renting, remember that the interest rate on rent is 100%,
Right.
and that you're going to see that rent continue to go up. So if you're making a decision based off of that, and we know that we're already short rentals for population, and we know that we're already short new homes for purchase population, the cost of both of these things are forecasted to increase. So you continuing to wait could be another $18,000 to $24,000 out of your pocket in rent that you're not getting back, instead of building equity in a home that if you could be in 3 to 5 years and it may not be the home of your dreams, that then you could turn around and sell and then be purchasing towards that home of your dreams. Would that be more beneficial to you than what you're doing paying in rent? Those are the two scenarios.
And can we say honestly, I mean, this is my opinion, I still feel like interest rates are still fairly low.
Yeah.
I mean, my sister was a mortgage broker for 15 years, and she's like 6 to 8 was a great interest rate to get. So still getting 5.5, I personally think it's still a fantastic rate. I mean, think about, Keith, how much did you pay on interest rate on your first home? 18%?
Yeah. She watches the show.
You watch the show.
But I mean,
knows
that's what
what's
my
up.
parents paid, right? So
Yeah.
if
My
I'm
first
like,
one was 6 1/8.
So that,
Right.
And I was jumping jacks for 6 1/8.
So we talked about this 3 years ago, that my biggest fear was that everybody
Expectation.
expected
Yeah.
this to be the norm.
Yeah.
So Lake Monticello, the last time we were north of 5% was 2011. Just to put it in perspective, there was 25 transactions in this year to date, from January 1 to last
Right.
night to last night. Do you want to know what the sales price was? 238.
Yeah, I was going to say in the low twos.
238.
And now we're over 3, right?
238. So we're $100 grand difference from that. There was a middle spot in 2014, 15, and 16 where we dropped down, but then we
Right.
picked back up. So it was a bit of a bell curve
Right.
in that. But the last time that was 5+%, the volume of units are considerably down, but people were buying homes for $238,000
Right.
at 5+. So it's there. It works. You can do it on that end of it, but 3% has become the norm, and this is what I was trying to say earlier. This is the psychology. People need to start changing their.
And the question starts to become also, is the Fed going to be able to put the genie back in the bottle when it comes to low interest rates in general? How their policy has expanded over the last 15 years. And what I mean by that is their goal is to get up to 3% to slow inflation, but they also want to keep it there. They don't want it to trickle back down, simply for the fact that for debt reservicing on all the money that we owe as a nation, that's how it's repaid, is through higher interest rates.
So I did not cross-reference that in my little spreadsheet I did. What was the inflation in 2011?
So not so much the inflation, but the prime. Since we had the great unpleasantness, and that's when they drove down to zero, and then it stayed at zero for nearly 13 years.
So I'm thinking we were at zero at 11.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
pretty darn close
Yeah,
to
or I
it.
thought 0.25, something like that.
Awfully close to it. And then I didn't cross-reference what unemployment was at that point, and GDP and all that kind of fun stuff. But just, we were north of 5% and people were buying homes in this one snapshot of
Right.
Lake Monticello for $238.
Well, and think about too, during that time, how Lake Monticello has always been desirable, but not a lot of people have known about it like they know now too. So we are seeing a lot of Northern Virginia, a lot of people from out of state moving to Lake Monticello. I'm seeing it every day. A lot of cash buyers.
I've been there since '87. That's always been the case.
Yeah.
There's a reason why they have gates there. You know that, right?
Why is that?
To keep the Yankees in.
But don't you think don't you think it's getting more attention than it ever has before?
I mean, I agree with her on that because of price. It's a necessity. It's become a neighborhood of price point necessity.
And it's also got more of the outside of the gate growth that's happened in the last
Right.
10 years.
Yeah.
So-
Spring Creek has helped. The Zion's Crossroads development has helped. I mean, I know you disagree with this because you've been in there since '87.
I just know the math. I know the numbers,
Yeah.
right? There was a larger growth in the 2000s, early 2000s, than we have now, as far as number of units, right? Because
But do you think that's because we don't have inventory?
No, it's
And where
because
lots
that
to
we
build?
had lots to build.
that was the difference.
Yeah.
That's 100% right. We had the inventory. We were 50% built out at that particular
Right.
point in time. We're now, we get full intents and purposes, 100% built out of 4,500 lots.
Our friends that are contractors are buying every lot that they possibly can and building and selling them faster than they can.
So there was a couple
At the
of,
lake? Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
and they're crap
One
lots.
just sold this.
I mean,
this
we're not
weekend.
gonna call.
Multiple
Oh, I'm
offers.
telling you,
They're challenging lots.
Yeah.
Okay, they're challenging lots.
They're
So
challenging lots.
Yeah. I mean,
apparently, my new hearing aids hearing what I have to say did not work.
Challenging
It did not
lots.
work
well,
on
I
this
mean,
one.
I can share. I mean, just the one this last weekend that went on market had multiple offers. Our good
Yeah.
friends that build out there, and the lot was actually flat.
So there
The
was
dirt you're talking. Buying the dirt.
Yeah.
yeah, but what did they pay for the lot?
40, 50K?
No. It was. I just looked at it. It was either 26 or 36,000.
I was about to say around 30 grand.
Yeah, somewhere
Yeah.
around there.
And so
then,
the
and they
time-
put the house on market for 375 with multiple bids, on a 3-2.
Yeah,
The
like-
garage.
Sounds like they crushed it.
Well, they're doing exactly what Village Oaks is doing, right? They're building these 1,500 square feet houses with garages, and now they're going on their new last section of the 20 houses are starting at 394.
So
Scott's got something to say on this.
I mean, I think that's amazing. I'm a little further north, and the same size lot is three. I mean, you're
Yeah.
$90,000.
Oh, definitely.
That's where it's becoming such a pain point for builders trying to build that
For over
300x
2
home.
I mean, you can get .14 in the back end of Glenmore for $215.
Yeah.
Or you can go.
that's a deal compared to that.
Yeah, I know. Or you got you said 36K for .14. Is that what it
And
was?
yeah, in the mid to low 30s.
Man.
Yeah.
So I stayed put for 2 decades there, and at one point in time, for almost 20 years, there was anywhere between 750 and 1,000 new homes a year being built
Right.
at Lake Monticello.
Imagine.
So it was a quite a fit. Some of it a little bit higher.
The housing
Some-
boom of Lake Monticello.
It was in the 2000s because
Yeah.
there was a lot of independent builders came out there at the time of great unpleasantness, wiped them all off out of the
Right.
business. But good for you, congratulations. That's some awesome stuff. I have
Yeah.
people ask me all the time to build houses. I said nope.
Waynesboro is coming up, so I'll relay this from Kevin Yancey watching the show.
Hey, Kevin.
For conversation purposes, Waynesboro City Planning Commission voted 4-1 not to rezone 18 acres from RS7 to RS12. City Council said the property is in the center of a 50-plus year neighborhood. The rezoning would have allowed 61 homes versus the 47
Wow.
So Waynesboro for Christy, anywhere you want to go on that topic and clients and any activity you're seeing?
Well, I've done a little bit in Waynesboro, so not a lot, so I can't really speak too much on it. I've done, Stanton, Waynesboro, and so forth. But it's interesting because I do have some clients pushing out to the outer skirts, Orange, Culpeper, Stanton, Waynesboro, to get that more affordable housing. So it's interesting that they're really trying to, kind of like they did at the lake, right, Keith, when they did that?
Yeah, so I have some news to share on that.
Okay.
So those that project over there is actually not going to happen even by right. So this was Garden Lane project.
Wow.
So we talk about that Friday.
We'll talk
We
about
should bring
that.
that up.
We're going to talk about that Friday.
With whom?
With Tony O'Brien and Chris Fairchild.
Okay.
Thank you,
Board of
sir.
Supervisors,
Board of
Fluvanna.
Supervisors.
Yeah, I'll be definitely listening to that.
So this is unfortunate news.
This is unfortunate news.
Yeah.
I've actually
You're breaking news here.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're not even going to get any. So the purpose of this, my thinking was, this inventory thing is not going to get any better. This is not getting any better. And I've been following that project that Kevin referenced.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to hear that the NIMBYism is starting to work its way on that side of the mountain, which is not encouraging. So that means we're not going to be getting.
Who are we really hurting here, though, right? Aren't we here to serve clients and provide and get back to some affordable housing, right?
Yeah, well.
And I literally, it breaks my heart when I just see these clients, even some single moms that I'm working with, and just people are just trying to have a home for their family.
Right.
And when these things happen, honest to goodness, it's making it harder for these people who are just trying to get by.
Dude, well said. Let's use the sound machine on that. You're getting the round of applause on that. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. Scott, you got something on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest struggle. I mean, part of it is some of these counties or municipalities haven't put a ton of effort into tax resources outside of just the of real estate and what Charlottesville was going through, which luckily they saw that they were reaping gains from just some of the asset increases anyways.
How do you not know that?
Assessments going up. How do they not know that?
How do you not know that?
And but along with, to the other side of that coin is, all right, so you add the new rooftops. How do you use your existing schools? How are all they supported without additional tax increases? And why, where are your utility taxes coming from? What are you doing to generate new business? And that's where Fluvanna has been behind the curve for 30 years.
And I'm going to add to this. You guys are the pros. I just am fortunate to sit here and learn from you guys. I personally am not buying the market balancing and the pendulum is going to start swinging to the buyer's side. I try to highlight on the show all the time about the data science school,
Sure.
More students at UVA coming this fall, more staff coming to UVA this fall. Personally, we talked about this, of a number of firms opening up headquarters here. And that's going to happen in the next 10 months. They're going to bring in talent from outside the area at high six-figure jobs here. They're going to need a place to stay. They're going to buy up some of that inventory.
They're going to have the capital to do it.
Yeah, and they're going to have the money to do it. And then you've highlighted, we're not getting any more inventory, and we know this area is fantastic to live. That's why we all live here. More folks are going to realize that. They're going to come here. They spend 4 years of the best years of their life. I went to UVA, it was phenomenal, and they get a taste of it, and they want to come back.
So that pendulum is going to stay stuck at the bottom, or maybe just a little bit on the seller side, for a substantial period of time before it starts going over that way. The point I'm just trying to make, it is moving.
Yeah.
It's moving rather anemically, but it is moving. And I was just looking to the left at CNBC. They were talking about the Fed's talking about having a neutral rate by the end of the year. What does that mean?
So what that means is they're trying to slow inflation from 8% to 3%, and they're going to increase the prime rate from 0% to 3%, so that that's neutral. When
They're calling that neutral.
When inflation and interest match, that's their neutral.
That's their definition.
That's their definition of
Thank
neutral.
you.
Christy, your thoughts on your footprint? Last time you were on the show, and this has come up with some of our viewers, you can tell that they listen closely.
Yeah.
You were servicing clients in the Williamsburg, Hampton Roads area. Are you doing any more of that?
Yeah,
No.
I mean, that's my original stomping grounds to Virginia. But I work, I'm all about serving people correctly. And so I work with some really close agents in that area that are not only good friends, but really serve my clients really well. I just got my cousin under contract in the area. We ended up going with a new build. We were tired of competing. The market down there, Richmond, Williamsburg it's crazy everywhere. Richmond's a whole different beast. I learned that really quick.
How so?
Still extreme amounts of offers on the table, and these first-time home buyers in the 250 range are putting up crazy amounts of cash to waive appraisal gaps.
But the volume of transactions are much greater.
Oh, definitely. I mean, they have hundreds.
There's more inventory.
Yeah, there's definitely more. But, I mean, you're getting these, where my cousin ended up being was, you're getting these houses built in the 60s and 70s going for 60 to 80,000 over asking.
That need help.
That need everything.
Yeah.
And then they're having to literally cliff dive into this transaction as a first-time home buyer just right out of college, and even putting $10,000 up on the table as a barrier was never enough. And for them and me trying to protect my sweet little cousins, it just didn't feel safe, right, in that situation, to walk into their marriage with $0 in their account just to be able to get a house. But they also knew, at the same token, they didn't want to rent at
so most rentals,
$2,800
Such
a month.
brutal situation.
Well,
Yes,
most
$2,800
rentals,
a month for a one-bedroom in
and they're
Richmond.
requiring 3 months now. First
Right.
month, last month, and a security. So
Yeah.
you're
Which
spending.
is the down payment on the home.
There you go.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Right.
a brutal
Yeah.
situation.
So they were able to get into a brand new build. They have to wait a couple months, which they're fine to do. They didn't have to compete, So and so you are seeing a lot more people like Ryan Homes and stuff like that buying up land and getting these developments going, which is helping some, but
So
it's
most of their
just crazy.
projects have been approved for
For
almost
a long
decade.
time. Yeah, a long time. Well, and that's like the neighborhood they're buying in. They started with the first, I think it's 80 homes total in the neighborhood. They started with the first 24, and they sold it out in a couple days. We were lucky to grab one.
So to stay
Yeah.
on the inventory conversation, I
Yeah.
can't talk about who and what, but there's going to be an uptick in Zion's Crossroads. There's a couple of projects that are going through.
They got a Checkers now. I'm telling
Hey,
you,
big time
buddy.
stuff.
Telling you.
Florida girl, Checkers
Hey.
is the best.
So I'm in Richmond all the time, so I'm always through there. So, but in the last, Checkers, Starbucks, whatever's. Something right.
7-Eleven.
7-Eleven just opened beside that
Riley's,
Riley's. Yeah,
Auto.
yeah. I mean, in the last 6 months, they've had a huge amount of stuff that's coming on. That's right on the Louisa County line, not the Fluvanna County line.
That's exactly right.
Right.
So this is all on the the Louisa side.
Right.
You're going to see a new hotel
It's an
come out.
amazing amount of tax money that Louisa County is bringing in as opposed to Fluvanna County.
And we will talk about this on Friday because
Cool.
they
I'll ring that bell until it's,
got it. And
Please do. Watch Friday's show.
They got it right on that end of it. But there's 2 hotels coming. There's a 300 to 400 lot subdivision coming out that way.
Daniel McDougall says 500 home development coming to Zion.
That's right. Thank you for correcting me on the math, on the numbers. I'm working with some clients that are looking for other parcels out that way. So you're going to see a lot of new projects come out that way. You're also getting a little bit of NIMBYism coming out. So it's, generally what happens with that is, it's sat dormant for years, Spring Creek. Now it's fully occupied. The people are there, don't want somebody else in there. But that snowball is kind of started. There's another 500,000 gallons of water finally coming
Yeah, I
up in
read
there.
about
So
that
we've been calling this, Jerry and I, forever, that Zion's is the next place. But the people with the money, they're looking at 2 places, Zion's and Waynesboro.
Scott says we need a good grocery store.
Yes.
Scott Batter.
My husband works right across from he works at the UVA.
He's a huge fan of the 7-Eleven.
Yes.
Scott, you're contributing to the show, Scott. We love it. I love it.
I don't know how I feel about those 7-Eleven visits, but
Why is that?
that may affect our budget.
He likes the Slurpees. Let Scott have a Slurpee.
Hey, those 7-Eleven visits add up quick, don't they?
Scott Morris, why don't you highlight your territory? We talked Richmond, we talked Williamsburg. You cover all that territory.
I do, yeah. I was in Richmond yesterday with a team Keller Williams that I work with. I don't know, we've had in that that 250, 350 price point is less challenging there than it is here. And it's still competitive, but it just depends on where you want to be.
I guess I'm talking Chesterfield.
Yeah.
Midlothian. It was brutal, and
Yeah.
I know how to win a deal. And I paired up with somebody there, and he was like, "You gotta like." It was brutal. I wrote lots of offers for them, and it was brutal.
So what did it take to win?
Brutal how?
I didn't. We went new construction.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
And really, they didn't have the working capital to make it happen that you have to do there. I mean, appraisal contingency is huge for them there, and with them being a new married couple, 10,000 wasn't enough. And I've been able to, I guess, in Charlottesville and at the lake, I've been able to do a little bit more magic tricks there, really knowing the market better. And maybe that's half my problem is I don't know the market in Richmond as well, and that's why I paired up to do it. But really wanted to represent my cousin because he's my cousin. I want to help take care of him.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to really know your market, and that market is different. Same with the agent there. When he came to buy in my territory, he came to me and like, what do agents here want to see? And it's what do agents there want to see? And I just, for one reason or another, 10, 15 people on one house that needed a new roof and a new HVAC and a new deck and
Didn't care.
new flooring. It was nothing to go 30, 40,000 over. And that's what I saw. But we also looked in the Chesterfield, Midlothian area, and I know those are a little bit more desired too.
So, and that's an area where I see properties listed lower than what they're going to go. They definitely use activity to drive price.
Yeah,
And that's
could be.
How many of your clients are expecting top price despite their house needing some work in TLC?
All of them?
Yeah.
How do
Yours?
I navigate that conversation a little bit differently because
Sure.
I bring a little bit of different,
Class A
But we
contract.
said
Yeah.
that's what they expect coming
Yeah.
into the conversation, and
Yeah.
you have to have some really big heart-to-hearts.
So the question is how do you do those hearts? Walk us through one of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about setting expectations, right? And setting things. And the conversation I always have with them, we can list at this, but you have to know that we may be sitting on market for a while, and we may have to do a reduction in 10 days to 2 weeks. And that's the first conversation I have with them is, listen.
But then you get the scarlet letter, right? Because if you as a buyer's agent, right, if you see something that was overpriced and dropped, what's the first thing that you start thinking and communicating with your client? What's wrong with it?
Right, exactly.
Right, so you kind of develop this, this scarlet letter, and that's why pricing it right is so important.
Yeah.
And sometimes sellers don't think that.
How many
right?
listen?
And also that goes back to accepting the right offer, because when you see it go on and then off, everybody goes, what's wrong with it?
Yep.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, going back to that same thing, it's these people are wanting top dollar because their neighbor told them,
Yeah.
well, I sold for this, so
Keeping
why
up with the
can't
Joneses.
you? And you have to have that conversation, and Maggie's taught me really well.
Maggie's watching. She says, keep rocking it, sister.
Good. Maggie's so good at walking in and being like, oh, you want that amount? Okay, well, let's put you need to get somebody in here to paint. You need to fix that deck. You need to put new flooring in here. That door with a hole in it needs to be changed. Maggie's taught me really well how just to be upfront without being controversial in that and saying,
And on
you
my
want
end,
top dollar,
it's
you have
kind
to
of
do
like,
those things.
well, okay, so your cousin got 2.5%. What do you think rates are today, and why do you think that? That's one of the initial
So that was the
conversations
original,
that
I just had that conversation yesterday. I said, this is impacting your value. You have all these items that have to get fixed. And look, let's face it, we all have children here at different ages. Sometimes you have to have that tough love conversation, right? And sometimes you as the agent have to make that decision, right? If you're not trusting me, I'm the trusted advisor to help you, maybe you need to find somebody else. I hate to be so direct about it, but sometimes that's the conversation because...
How many say okay? Do any?
Well, for Yonna and I, we never lose. Once we get in the door for a conversation, but we're just bringing a different years of experience to the table. But we'll provide numbers and we'll provide analysis. And this, Yonna's doing one right now. The particular seller wants way more than what the market's going to absorb, and you have to have that tough love conversation
Right.
with them and get them in there, because even as hard of the conversation that you have with them, and it doesn't get these offers, and even how completely you've been, they're going to blame you for it.
Sure.
Right, not
Setting
the
those
market.
expectations
Not
right
so.
up
That's
front.
why setting
Yeah.
that expectation. So,
And one other thing we'll do too is everybody's like, well, I want to list for this. And it may have multiple problems, but then you have to get through a home inspection, right? And so we even put expectations of put this in reserve, that there's a possibility of up to 3% that you're going to need to keep the deal going. That, if the roof may be at end of life.
Or an
things like
appraisal, because
Right.
there's certainly even, I can talk about the number of times where I've had an agent who said, I've been doing this for 20 years and I've never heard that a conventional appraisal could come back subject to. It's like, well, if you can see through the roof when you're standing in the house,
Yep.
they may want it to not rain inside the
if
house.
they see
they're-
it,
yeah,
they'll
if
as they should. By the
yeah,
way.
whoever is actually giving the money wants a house where the water doesn't come inside.
You should throw a bone to Woody.
Yeah, so
on
Woody,
that topic.
thank you very much. Woody Fincham is going to be one of our new sponsors with Fincham Appraisals, Associate Appraisals, and actually he's going to be coming in next month and we'll be talking about this because, appraisals are going to be so important. They always are, but they're going to be even more important moving forward. On that line, one of the things, talk about how we help set expectations. Depending on the relationship, sometimes Yonna and I will pay for an appraisal. So I'll tell you what, we're going to pay for an appraisal. We're going to have an appraisal come in, and we're going to let the appraiser tell us what it is, because that's what Scott's going to lend on, right? And that doesn't mean, and this whole thing of people bringing a lot of cash to the table, I think that's going to start dying down because of 5 and 6% in interest. But that's sometimes how we win that conversation.
And I've seen a couple times too that the appraisal truly wasn't correct too. So doing rebuttals have been really helpful for me in this market. I've won a couple actually. The beginning of this year, appraisal came down 20, and I know my market so well. So I know when I put that offer in and I ran those comps, that my client was going to be okay to make it to closing, because I really do try to protect my clients and run some really great comps for them when they're putting offers in, because I don't want to be in a situation. Some of these appraisals are coming in 3 days before closing that I'm in this situation. It came in 20,000 below. I did a rebuttal within 24 hours. We were back to where we needed to be. But I mean, really trusting somebody to run those numbers for you, not just throwing a Hail Mary out there, is an important part of our
thank you
job.
for bringing that up. So Scott, why don't you talk about the appraisal process and who can talk to them and who can't? Because that's an important.
So I cannot talk to the appraisal, but
Right.
agents can. I'm the one who is going to submit the rebuttal for the agent. So I'm going to send out, hey, look, this came back. Here's where we are. There's some cases where I'll go in and there's a new construction where I went in and went back and forth with the AMC and got us essentially where we needed to be without the agents even getting involved. And that's because of my relationship with the builder. I'm like, look, I know where we are. These are this house. They added a deck. You and I went through something very similar a year or two ago, where if there's something added after the fact and the appraiser's praising off of contract price on new construction, and all of the similar builds are going to come in that price, anything they're adding at that point, they're going to have a difficult time getting to value on, because then you get into this contest of cost versus value. And you can get into that on just a traditional, conventional appraisal, where let's say that Johnny homeowner goes in and they've got the contractor who says, hey, it's going to cost us 10 grand to do this much work to the basement, but the basement's partially finished, meaning they've got drywall up in some areas, there's concrete bare floor, there's roughed-in plumbing, but there's nothing there, and the agents believe that there's X amount of value for the $10,000 worth of work. Well, the $10,000 worth of work may constitute $30,000 in value, but you don't get $30,000 in adjustments on the $10,000 versus of actual cost to work. That makes sense.
So on our sellers with listings, we always provide a package for the appraiser.
Right.
And we're always there.
Yeah.
They may not like it, but we're always there. And we hand them the package and say, what's been upgraded since, because they're doing so many of them.
Right.
They're not they're not catching it.
Yeah.
Nine times out of 10, they thank us for the information, and
Sure.
we usually hit the numbers when we go ahead and do that.
And I think they've been so swamped on that same token, because the one that I had to do a rebuttal for about a month ago, I was like, these properties aren't even comparable. You've
Yeah.
got this great lot, you've got all these things, and I think they're so busy, they're,
Sure, 100%. So there's even errors that they make. A lot of what they do is copy and paste. So they'll send things over. I'll get new construction that's marked as is, and I'm like, bro, the house isn't even like, there's no side, like, no.
You realize this is on a crawl space and the house is on a basement?
Yeah, it's stuff like that.
There was a couple of those.
Yeah, they definitely, there's misses. Number
all
of
human.
bedrooms is a big one where we get a value miss. But the comps have to be real. I've got, there's agents, when we talked about this at the beginning, who price at the very top of the market, and then have appraisal challenges, and then go in and they're stringing together comps that may not actually apply. It's like, okay, this is a 10-acre property. This had an additional bedroom and
Right.
half bath. Like, I see everybody sees what you're trying to get to, but that may not coexist with reality.
Yeah.
How about this topic? Tell us about rebuttal. Keith, have you been seeing them? This is from Maggie. Tell us more about what a rebuttal is. Have you been seeing them? Let's go down that topic.
Yeah, so very rarely we see them. Generally,
I think I've done 2 in the last year and a half.
yeah, absolutely. So generally, we price them right, the contracts are right. The goals for everybody at this table is to get it on the contract and close it, right?
Right.
And protect our client, buyer or seller.
That's why they
on
hired us.
that end of it. So I very rarely see a rebuttal. But the ones that popped up, much like Christy, we've always won, and it generally was for the same reason.
So let's tell them what a rebuttal is.
Go ahead.
Okay, so for instance, my situation, we purchased a house at 326. The appraisal came in at 305, and we have one opportunity, right, Scott? One opportunity.
You've got one, but you could kind of say you've got a couple
Okay.
within you technically have one,
Yeah.
but you could, if you've got a little bit of, if there's a real mistake, if there's something and the appraiser is not completely, don't tell me how to do my job, if you can crack the door open, you can give them, you
Yeah.
can say, hey, I saw this, and then you can get a little
Yeah.
bit of
So you have
movement going.
Technically, one opportunity to come back with all the facts. So what I do is I go run comps. I pull out properties that they didn't use, that have recently sold. I try to do within 30 or 60 days to be as accurate as possible. And then I list those comps, and I list reasons why those are more suitable than the comps that they used. And the whole goal is for them to use those comps with the correct information to go back and change the value so that my client isn't having to bring $20,000 to the table. Because I've done my research ahead of time before my clients
Was
put it
this
in.
appraisal local or from out of the area?
Local.
Really?
It was.
So in my cases, they were always outside
Yeah,
of the
there's
area.
been some outside situations that I've heard of, but this was actually a local
Really?
person.
The other thing that you can have generally some success with, if you can approach getting them to change their adjustments, but that gets in, that's very much a I know better than you situation typically when you're dealing with them. But if you can get them to move on their adjustments, that's typically where you find the most just change in opinion for value.
Sure.
Meaning that if they're saying that this patio isn't a deck, or this just little nuances to where you can say, well, look, you called it this in one of your comps. This is clearly bigger. Can we get it's
Increased value.
a little. Can we get a little here? Can we get a little there?
Yeah.
Can I get a little wonky and go down a road that all of us may or may not be comfortable with?
Sure.
It's coming soon,
Yeah.
right? Had 2 brokers a couple of Fridays ago, Quentin Beckham and Sasha Tripp.
Oh, yeah, I
sitting
watched
in
that.
watching.
I watched. That was a
Both
great
watching.
show.
It was well
Yeah,
watched.
it was a great show.
What do you think about using coming soon as a tool to help set pricing expectations?
Yeah.
And you got a lot of colleagues watching, just a heads up before you answer
Hey,
that.
guys.
Yeah.
So
If you're comfortable.
I am
Okay.
very comfortable. I totally understand why we do it. I enjoy doing it and encourage my clients to get there as quickly as we can in the process if they're ready, because it does. It drives attention. It gets talking, and then we know where we are and so forth. But also, I work with a lot of buyers too, and it drives me crazy. I'm like, because I'll have clients that call me because they're getting those coming soons because I have them set up on what I call my little VIP mailing list. So they'll be like, can I see it tomorrow? I'm like, no, not until, and it usually has a date in there when it's coming, which is really helpful, and it allows us to plan ahead. I have a lot of clients that come from Manassas, Northern Virginia, and things like that.
But I'm specifically talking as a listing agent.
Yeah.
You're talking about the period of time.
The period of time and using that as a tool to set
I think it's a great,
expectation.
I do.
So, because
Yeah.
technically, the only people who are supposed to see it is real estate agents,
And
right?
then the follow-up
Well-
question to that is, should the period of time be narrowed or shortened? Because 2 weeks
so
is an
is it-
eternity.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Oh, it's too long.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's
it's
the
painful
time.
for me in a lot of situations, but at the same time, I've had situations that I've been about the 2-week period, estate type things where we've been able to put in coming soon. They had estate sales and so forth. So it's kind of worked in that favor of being able to put in there that there's an estate sale and the notes and stuff like that. So I don't know. I'm
You're
neutral.
torn.
I'm neutral. I see Sasha do it a lot, and I think she's smart for it. It brings a lot of attention to it, and I love how they run their business.
So I'm
So,
going to try to question a different way.
yeah,
So if you have a seller that you think it's $30,000 over.
Okay.
And you put it in coming soon for 2 weeks, and you have no phone calls for showings or anything
Yeah.
like that, what's your conversation with your client?
well, that could bring a lot of conversation.
Yes.
This is not bringing traction like we thought. Maybe this is a change because of the market,
Correct.
interest rates, and so forth. So it could also be a trial run in that situation
So
too.
I'm starting to see coming soons come on the market sooner than they used to,
Right.
right?
In the last 2 weeks, it's been happening a lot.
So instead of like on a Thursday
Right.
for a weekend, now you're seeing on a
whole
Monday.
week- or a whole
or
week
a week
ahead.
before that. So I'm wondering if that's what's going on.
Yeah.
That there's a test of the market.
Sure.
And then you have a conversation with Scott and say, hey, Scott, I'm sorry, but I think we're overpriced and do that. So I'm
So
just
it-
Tell us how
curious.
you
So
use coming soon to get your client a waterfront prior to it hitting the market. That's obviously from Maggie sending me that question.
Right. Well, we're doing live virtual tours,
Yeah.
right? So we talk about a lot of what our waterfront buyers are, and they are a lot of people coming from out of state, out of town, hours away. And so that coming soon, a week or more ahead, is a tool that we personally use because it gives us an opportunity to go in during that staging time and do video tours, and those waterfronts get ridiculous amounts of traction.
Sure.
So it gives us an opportunity to get it organized, get people that want to come into town, be able to get there, and so it's a really good tool for us because by the time we hit market, within 24 hours, we have multiple offers, and yet we're still able to keep it open for the weekend, and people are able to get here because I can tell you from a buyer side too, half the complaint is, well, it came on the market on Friday, and there was
Sold
no heads up, and then they were not able to get here, and they missed out on a waterfront that they felt like could have been perfect for them. So it is helping some people in certain situations to be able to plan ahead, get here, get their ducks in a row, get with their lender, and be able to have everything ready to go.
So from your perspective, Scott, coming soon, positive, negative, it really doesn't impact your world?
It only impacts my world in the fact that I think when people run them at 2 weeks, it's too early. I get plenty of questions, hey, can we do this? I'm like, sure you can, but you're probably going to go offer on 15 properties before this thing actually comes on market. So what are we really looking at it for?
But
I think it's a waste of time for you.
At 2 weeks, yes. I think in that 3 to 5 day if people are using them in that range, then yeah, I think it's super
but your
useful to
lock
drive
and shop
activity.
would be helpful in this case.
My
wouldn't
lock and shop would be, but what if that's useful to the fact that they're already under a rate, I can give them a price. This is what, if you don't get any of these properties that you're offering on before this one comes available, this is what your fixed payment's gonna be, and we know that we're already
But what happens if it's specifically like a waterfront where we are, where we're lucky to get one a week to come to market?
One a week, one a month.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. But recently we've seen quite a couple more come to market. So if we're getting one or two, let's say 2 a month, right? Just to stay on average there. these people are literally have been looking for 6 to 8 months for that perfect waterfront, and being able to have that time, get a virtual tour on our Facebook page where we're showing them a whole tour of it, and then they can make plans to come down, get their finances in order, and they're not having to make a decision in 2 or 3 days, where some of these people like to think through the process,
So
right?
I love this lock and shop and wrap it around
Yeah.
the coming soon. So if I have a buyer client who's looking at this and say, I'm interested in this property, and I look at it, it's not available for 2 weeks, I want them to lock in, because their first comment to me is, oh my God, what's the interest rate's going to be like
Right. Yes.
2 weeks from now?
Right.
Right. And that's when I turn them over to Scott and say, okay, let's lock them. Let's get in there. This house is coming in 2 weeks. You don't have to panic,
Right.
buy, because your interest rate may go up in 2 weeks. It may not, but it may.
Right.
And with the lock and shop, if it goes down, you get the lower rate, right?
Correct.
One last little conversation
Yeah.
on this stuff. Are you seeing a lot of out-of-area agents in our market, and how is that affecting how you do
Yeah,
business?
but I've kind of went out of my market
Yeah,
too.
that's what you did.
So-
She can't throw shade.
No,
She
no.
can't throw shade.
No, you did not.
Yes, she did.
No, you did not. You did not. You referred it out to a local agent. There's a
Well,
very
yes.
different.
On that
In
circumstance,
Williamsburg, but
yeah.
Stanton, I will go to Stanton.
She's
I
going
will-
out of
Stanton's in your
market.
marketplace.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Stanton's in your market.
Stanton's
Yeah,
in your marketplace.
but I will very
You in Richmond.
right. But that was an odd situation because
Cousin.
it was a cousin, and
Yeah.
I was helping him out with where I could
So,
help him out.
but you are, so to go back
But
to.
yeah, no, even my listings that I actually, I have a listing coming to market with an agent in Richmond that I referred to tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just won't do it. It's not in the best interest of my clients.
Well, one of our code of ethics is we're supposed to be an expert in
Right.
the market that we're
Right,
buying
and I'm
and
not.
selling in on that end of it. So
Yeah.
that would be a violation of an ethics code
Right.
on that end of it. But what I'm seeing right now, one of these recent coming soons, it was all Northern Virginia agents coming down
Right,
to look at the house.
right.
I had no local agents signed up until I went live.
Right.
And, that was a very, very odd conversation with local agents after that. For whatever reason, it didn't happen that way. But I'm also looking at some of the listings, and they're Northern Virginia agents listing homes in our
Or
marketplace.
even, we're
That was
having
a
that even
conversation I
Richmond.
had on the car ride down
Yeah.
here with somebody.
So what was that about?
Both of us, his take was, he's surprised to see so many out of market, or where did these listings come from? And my comment was, I get these mailers, and it's I call constantly, hey, trying to sell my house, just trying to figure out how much success are you having doing what you're doing with like these eyeball mailers, depending on where you're coming from.
They work well. We're doing them on behalf of our builder clients, and we're sending them to Northern Virginia, Arlington, and we're targeting high net worth neighborhoods with empty lots that aren't owned by banks or LLCs, and they are yielding 1 or 2 jobs a year for our particular client.
I was going back to the other topic, though. A frustration for me lately, we've had quite a few Richmond agents or agents from other areas listing at the lake.
That's what I was going to bring up.
And this is my biggest problem. If you're going to come list in our area, at least provide us with the correct lock boxes to get in the house or a combo.
Well,
code.
it's even worse than that. So the reason I brought it up is there's
We
a
can't even get into the
Well,
house.
how about the
sometimes.
contracts that are different and not using the standard
Right.
contracts?
Yeah.
Right,
That
very
came up.
different.
Yeah, and I spend more time helping
Yeah.
my team members negotiate and read Richmond contracts, Northern Virginia
Right.
contracts.
They're very different.
Well, the
than
out-of-market agent should adapt to the local market contract.
So what we do is we require them to use our
Yeah,
contract.
they should
As you
adapt.
should.
We require
They're
them.
not on their territory.
Right.
But back on
Hard
this.
to get into the houses, though. I mean, that's half the battle for us. A lot of the times, right, we have our Supra, or at least have a combo there, and they're putting these other combo boxes there, these boxes for us to get in the house, and then they don't know how to give us one-day access. And, I mean, are they really going to have a lot of people from their area coming? I mean, they're
Well-
selling just fine.
Well, I
but-
have a whole different theory on that, which I'll
Yeah.
keep.
Save for another show as we wind down here.
Yeah.
A, save for another show, and B,
Yeah.
will surely get me into trouble.
Yeah.
So
I know where you're going with it.
But what we have now at the lake is coming soon signs
Mm-hmm.
for out of the area, and then we have clients saying, "I want to get into that house," and we don't know where it is. We have no access
MLS,
to it.
yep.
Yeah. Anyway,
No details. Yep.
another show. as
How
Joey said.
about some closing thoughts for you, Scott Morris?
Just the same thing. If you're having troubles, just stick with the plan, stick with your trusted advisors, get with Christy, find out, what creates your best offer for your scenario. If you're thinking about listing, Christy and Keith are going to be the people who are going to guide you to getting the most activity to your property. That's about it.
Yeah. No, I agree. Having the whole package is definitely key in this market, and being ready when the time comes, and having your lender, they're literally miracle workers. They're on phone calls and conference calls last night at 9:00 working miracles. So it's just having the right people that you like, know, and trust, that can really guide you and be there for you is the key to success in this market, hands down.
Well said.
I say this all the time, and not to underplay it, but the easy part actually is getting the contracts done. It's hard work, but where the rubber meets the road, where you need the trusted advisors like
getting to the
Christy and
finish line.
Scott, is everything after that to
Definitely.
the closing.
Most
So thank you guys. Thank you for coming in. This was
Thanks
a lot
for
of fun.
having us.
Thank you.
And I
Thank
can
you.
actually hear everybody, which is
All
exciting.
right.
We love it. We love it. Guys, that's Real Talk with Keith Smith, guys, on a Wednesday, presented by Ross Mortgage and Scott Morris. Christy Beck was on fire. Judah Wickower, our director. The I Love CVille show is up in 57 minutes. We'll see you very soon.
All
Take
right.
care.
Thank you, guys.